Hello and welcome to the 19th episode of the Rangers Gameplan podcast, where we discuss the week and a little bit of change that has been the New York Rangers. It's been a hot second since we've been here, but a lot has happened. A lot of good. One event that was very unfortunate. But overall, good stretch since the last time we've chatted.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about. I guess do you want to get the bad news out of the way? The little bad news there is, I guess,
let's go with
some
that.
injuries still. While we're recording this, we're literally 6 minutes after they just beat Detroit. So
Yeah.
just so you guys know where we're at. Adam Fox is back, so that's obviously huge. That goes without saying. The bad news, Kako looks like he might be done for the season. I'm not sure. Took a very, very nasty collision into the boards. I mean, it looks like something is probably broken in his leg. So, I mean, as much as we've criticized him and everything, it does suck losing him. I mean, he's still very, very good defensively, regardless of all our other expectations for him. It does suck to lose him.
Yeah.
And other than that, Heedle has been placed on long-term IR as well. That does not seem as severe. Apparently, he's skating on his own and slowly working his way back, which is kind of what we expected from the last time we were on here anyway. So, I mean, like we mentioned the last time, he could take however long he needs for the whole concussion situation, and the team is winning regardless. So
Yeah. And the first game we'll talk about, because it's just so brief, it doesn't really matter. The 1-0 win over Pittsburgh. Jonathan Quick is not a real human. I don't think there's much more to say other than that. I am amazed with the type of hockey that Jonathan Quick has played for the Rangers, and I would simply sign anyone who has ever enjoyed watching the Rangers play hockey, because Adam Fox is one of the league's best defensemen, and he basically forced his way here. Quick obviously grew up a Rangers fan, and obviously he had a storied career in LA, but Jesus Christ, he has not looked good for the past 4 or 5 seasons, and all of a sudden he's back in 2012 Conn Smythe form. It's just...
yeah, he's definitely been beyond ridiculous. I guess the one thing I will say that ties in with that is Benoit Allaire needs. I mean, he should get like a max contract from the team, because he just finds a way to any backup goalie we brought in, even when Hank was the starter, any backup we've ever had just goes on these crazy runs. So I mean, he definitely deserves a lot of credit, especially for Jonathan Quick, because I mean, there's no way around it. He has been bad for the past few years. It's not like he's just been mediocre. He's been really, really tough to watch for a while, and now I mean, I think he's 6-0-1 as of right now, and he has like a .930 save percentage, and I think a couple shutouts as well. So it's insane.
I'm astonished with how good he's looked, and it's not just that he's lucking into these games. You can look at the goal stop of expected. He is just playing ridiculous hockey, and this is a guy who last year was the third goalie on Vegas, like into the deep playoffs. He was their third goaltender, and all of a sudden, all that's changed is the jersey, and with legitimate starting time, currently he's rocking a .930 and a .199 with a pair of shutouts through 8 games.
That's ridiculous. As expected,
as expected. You're
So obviously, I think that was because he started the Bruins game as well. So 1-0 win over Pittsburgh. As I mentioned the last time, I don't like them very much at all. I hate them a lot. So I don't care what the score is. Any win over them is fine by me. Obviously, they beat the Flyers. That one, I didn't really break a sweat the whole time. The Flyers are not good.
My only note for that game is it is really funny that every time the Rangers play them, Mika Zibanejad just finds himself. It is a religious awakening every single time Mika Zibanejad laces up against the Philadelphia Flyers, and good on him for just staying on brand.
I mean, it's just about every time he plays against them. So, I mean, like I said, they're not good. I don't care what the current standings say. The Metro is like really weird right now. What the one thing I will say about that is, I mean, let the Flyers keep being like okay and in a playoff spot because
Yeah.
I mean, if we play them in the playoffs, like Mika actually might have like 20 points in a series, so I'm cool with that. Yeah, just to recap that game, I mean, obviously Mika was stellar. Blake Wheeler had a couple real nice plays
Oh
too,
yeah.
so credit to him. And other than that, I thought the Flyers just gave up everything they possibly could defensively. I thought Carter Hart made a good amount of grade A saves. I
Yeah.
think the Rangers could have scored a lot more in that game, but I was not impressed by the Flyers. I was a little bit skeptical going into that game because they're not. I mean, obviously they've been pretty good this year. Not that I was afraid we were going to lose to them or anything, but I was kind of just waiting to see how they would look, and I was not. I was not impressed whatsoever. So.
Yeah. I will ask you one brief question on that. Has there been a sicker and more just electric celebration to not matter than Kreider getting his second goal in that game?
Oh yeah, that was
Then comes
disappointing.
back.
That was a pretty goal with that Selly. It unfortunately didn't matter. The one and this does not matter whatsoever now, but I just don't understand how it was challenged for offsides and like we never saw a replay of it and it was over. Like the review was over pretty quick from what I remember. So
Carey
I mean, it
Price was
very
in
well
the
could have
video
been
room.
offsides, but I was just like it definitely was a lot closer than for the review to be over in about 5 seconds. It doesn't matter, but I was just a little annoyed because I would like to have an opinion on if it should have counted or not, and we never saw a replay. So
I
it is what it is.
Carey Price was in the review room. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, he still probably holds a major grudge against him.
Really?
He Kreider was tripped, by the way. I don't think we've ever talked about that on this podcast. Kreider was tripped. I
Oh
have
yeah.
the video and a picture of it happening. He was tripped. I just want to say that. Just get that out in the open. Before we go on, just a probably 30-minute tangent about that. Let's move on to the Bruins
Yeah.
before we talk about that playoff series from 2014.
Yeah. So, holy shit, right?
Yeah. I obviously I'm sure everyone was pretty scared going into that. A lot, higher scoring of a game than anyone would have really expected. I think if those two teams play again, which they will, I don't think you're going to see it be that sloppy. I think both teams were definitely really, really sloppy. I will say I think the Rangers had a real good amount of nice stretches in the game where I felt like they completely controlled play. Obviously, the Bruins are very, very good, so it's tough to hold them, hold them back too much. My only complaint, I guess this even goes into tonight's game. This is, like I said, probably my only major issue with the team right now. They are taking way too many penalties.
Oh my god.
I think I don't know how many it is now, but I know in the stretch of 3 with the games against the Penguins, Flyers, and Bruins, I think it was 16 Rangers penalties in 3 games. So
Tasty.
that's not great. I don't think a lot of the calls in the Penguins game were that great, but it also could just be because I'm biased and I was very locked into that game because I don't like them. So that could be it. Maybe if I take the Rangers, goggles off for a second, they might have been okay. But regardless, I mean, forget all that. 16 in 3 games is not good. You can only blame the refs so much. And I think a lot of them are definitely stupid penalties. We saw a couple tonight that I really didn't like them taking. Trocheck had the one very late in the game tonight
Oh,
that very well could have tied it for Detroit. Thankfully, it didn't, but I was not happy about that.
I was so
Yeah,
ready for overtime at that point.
yeah, I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I guess just we should probably mainly talk about this Bruins game. You know, the first little while of the season, I was saying a lot about measuring stick games and everything like that. We didn't have a whole lot in the first month. So far, the Rangers have, played really well against the teams that they've had to, or teams that they're going to see again later in the season. And I guess the biggest takeaway from that is I don't know when the last time we beat Boston was. It feels like forever. And along with that, we have not looked anywhere close to them for quite some time now. So to put up 7 goals against Boston is really telling for how this team has progressed. Because it seems like the past at least 3 years that I can remember, every time Boston was on the schedule, you felt like it was going to be a loss, and it wasn't going to be close. So I mean, as good as this team has been, up to this point, I feel like if they lost that game, let's say like 4-1 or something like that, our outlook on the team would be way different than it is right now.
100%. I went into that game honestly terrified. You went 0-3 against Boston last year with a 5-2 loss, a 3-1 loss, and a 4-2 loss. And I obviously the Devils was a big one, but the Devils just haven't looked great to this point. So I thought the Rangers would win that game. I really did. This was a game where I thought this could be we haven't developed that much moment. I thought the bottom could have fallen out, and I thought there were a lot of points during this game the bottom could have fallen out if the Rangers were not the team that they are. Because you go up 2-0, you run maybe the most dominant 10 minutes of Ranger hockey I've ever watched in my life, where against a team that going into that was the number 1 team in the NHL in Boston, and shots were 8-0. You had 2 goals on the board before they had their second shot on net, and you were just mopping them. And then you give up 2 in like less than 30 seconds. We lose that game last year 10 times out of 10. There is not a shot in hell that they don't. And
the Rangers don't score another goal after they give up 2.
No.
that it would have been over at that point.
That's where it would have dropped out, and they just kept on trucking. You got the Kreider goal shorthanded. Pasternak ties it, and then you kind of just laid back on the gas. And I'll also give the Rangers credit for this. They understood that you cannot let Boston have a breath of air, because despite going up, they went up 4-3 and then 5-3. They come out of the second intermission into the third period. They're still full on, just foot on the gas. They are not going to let up. They kept going. You got the Pitlick goal. Coyle got one back, and then Bald Panarin got another one in the a few minutes after that. And it wasn't like they played the back half of the third period trying not to lose. They continued to try to wipe them off the earth, and credit to them. They did. It's a very strange game because you give up 31 shots and 4 goals. So it obviously wasn't the most complete, but I'll say it was one of the more impressive games I've ever watched the Rangers play.
Yeah, and I think I don't know how many power play goals the Bruins scored in that game.
1.
But it was 1. Yeah, but they had. I'm trying to find how many power plays they actually had. That was my biggest takeaway from it, because I feel like the Rangers were fine until they gave the Bruins momentum with a power play. I mean, it's not like they got burnt on the power, on the penalty kill every time. But the whole game I was watching, it just felt like they were controlling the game until they would take a penalty. And I mean, it was only 1, thankfully, which is, I mean, by the way, that is impressive against Boston.
Yeah.
The penalty kill for the Rangers has still been ridiculous all year. They, gave up a power play goal tonight, but regardless, they've still been crazy. So
on tonight, they had 5 power plays though for Detroit. So I'll
so
take one for 5.
it's. So, I mean, that's it, though. It's like the Rangers have really impressed me. I just wish they would stop taking so many penalties. And that was it. I really felt like the Bruins didn't feel comfortable the whole game until, I mean, regardless of how good your penalty kill is, when the Bruins are on the ice for a power play, it's very rare that they're not going to control play. I mean, obviously Kreider with the huge, I believe it was shorthanded, right?
Yeah.
The one he had at the end of the first. So that's crazy. Um, I mean, like I said, other than that, it's very rare to see them do something like that. So just because I mean, how many teams in this league don't give up a power play goal on like almost every chance they give the Bruins? So it's, I mean, regardless of everything else, it's just been, they've been so steady on the penalty kill all year. Um, and I guess the other thing I will say about the Bruins game is, I mean, the Rangers were scoring goals in all kinds of different ways. I mean, even strength, shorthanded, power play, all that stuff. Like it was really, really impressive. I think we could finally put behind us that we're just power play merchants.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, this is the 21st game they just played, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, there hasn't really been any that the power plays just carried them. So this team has definitely progressed to a point where I'm very, very comfortable with them. And this is something I've said many, many times. Even while the Rangers aren't playing their A game, it's very rare this season that they look god awful. You can tell when they don't have it, but it's not like we're getting outshot, 20-3 in periods anymore.
Ugh.
So hopefully that doesn't happen this season, but that happened pretty consistently for the past 2 years, where there would always just be one disaster period with this team. And I mean, not that they've played a full 60 minutes every single night, but I mean, it's nice to not look like a minor league team for 20 straight minutes every single game, even in the wins.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of the bad games, I don't know if you have much more to go on with Boston, but
no, that's just about it. Like I said, the one thing I want to say is I'm very interested to see how the next game those two teams play pans out. Just because I think both of them were very sloppy, so I think the next one will probably be pretty low scoring and a lot tighter from both. So
cannot wait for
we'll
the
see.
1-0 game in the shootout against Boston.
Yeah,
Be so
yeah. I mean, very impressed by this game, and like I said, I'm very impressed that they look like they belong on the same ice as the Bruins for once in the first few years. So
yeah. And now, speaking of, you mentioned games where the Rangers just do not have it. Buffalo. Man.
yeah,
They played pretty okay until the third period, and that is kind of where it fell out.
yeah, I do think the Rangers shot themselves in the foot a lot in that game.
Yeah.
I don't think they were completely terrible. I guess we should start by saying two of the Buffalo goals were empty netters,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
It was an empty netter and,
it was
8 seconds left.
yeah. So one was an empty netter,
Thank
and
you,
then
Kyle,
the other
by
one
the
was
way.
just
Thank you on that one.
just garbage time. That was, yeah, I really thought the Rangers just played terrible with the puck in that game. There was a lot of turnovers in that game, like a ridiculous amount. And I with all that said, I thought the Rangers had they had a lot of scoring chances that they just couldn't capitalize on. Lehkonen made some ridiculous saves, but
Yeah.
I think the Rangers, they probably could have made that like a 3-3 game at one point at least. So it is what it is. I mean, they're currently sitting here at 16-4-1. Those games are going to happen where you just don't quite have it, and you're honestly just getting goalied. Because I mean, like I said, Lehkonen was just. He was not human in that game. The one with the VZ where he had a wide open net and he makes a stick save. That was one of many in that game. I wasn't upset about it. It's like I said, if the Rangers didn't have any life for the whole game, it's a different story. But being that I thought they probably could have scored 7 goals again, I got over it pretty quickly. And I mean they won tonight, so that definitely makes up for it. I do want to talk a lot about this game because I want to say I think the Red Wings are a really, really good team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about how a lot of people feel about them. I guess let's just say the news. So Patrick Kane is a Detroit Red Wing now. Um,
No, but he's gonna be a Ranger. I saw it on Twitter. I've seen it on Twitter for the past like year and a half, and it's
yeah,
really the past couple
I'm not
weeks.
gonna lie. I'm a little upset.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't afford it, so let's just get
Yep.
that out of the way. But it just sucks because it's like Kako goes down, and it's like that little glimmer of a chance showed up, and then it was immediately taken away. Now I'm back and forth about it because I've said this many times. Like, I don't think he's a great fit for the team, but I can't help but want him on the team because, like I said, I've said this many times. He is my second favorite athlete ever behind Henrik Lundqvist. So it's hard for me to completely put that behind me. It's like any thought in my head of him coming back, I can't completely shy away. So it sucks, kind of, but also it's probably not what we needed at all. And I think I mean, listen, this team's really good. I mean, they've lost 5 games so far, so we're not in dire need of anything like that. And I honestly think he probably might have ruined the chemistry again a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, they would probably just try to squeeze him in on the power play again, which doesn't need any help, and it would just mess with things like we saw last season. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, Detroit, I do like their team a lot. I think they play really good fundamentally, and we saw tonight they were blocking damn near every shot. Um, the Rangers had a lot of good looks. That I mean, by the way, is it Huso or Huso or I don't know.
I've heard
Um,
Huso. I'm pretty sure it's just Huso.
I believe it's that as well. I've heard both, but anyway, he definitely made some really high quality saves in this game.
Mm.
But outside of that, the Rangers had some really good looks that just constantly got blocked. I do think the Red Wings are definitely building something over there, and for me, I think because even though Patrick Kane didn't play tonight, he will be on that power play that's already decently scary. I think, like we mentioned before, they went 1 for 5 on the power play, the Red
Right.
Wings. So that to me is pretty impressive, just being that they had so many chances, and I do like a lot of their players. Um, it's another game where I feel like the Rangers probably could have scored about 1 million goals. So honestly, I feel like the Rangers played almost a perfect game aside from the penalties and
Mm.
aside from the 26 seconds they gave up 2 goals.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Everything outside of that, I felt like they were really good. So,
I am pretty high on Detroit. I feel like they just have so much talent, so much upside on that team. I really like Huso, and I'm also a pretty big Reimer guy. Just like as a lover of goaltenders, I like both of their
mhm.
guys. They're not a bad team by any means. They're in a wild card spot. I think they're the first wild card, and they are hot on the tail of Toronto in the Atlantic. They are.
Yeah, and Larkin didn't play
Mm,
tonight. I don't know what his status is. I don't know how long he's been out or is going to be out. But fully healthy, when you look at that lineup on paper, it does look pretty good. They're not completely stacked. I don't like their depth all that much.
mm-hmm.
But they're still definitely a good team. They're most certainly not a pushover team.
No.
I do like both their goaltenders. I just think if they were to find a way to, you know, get an elite goalie, that would be huge for them. I don't know how much Patrick Kane necessarily moves the needle, but I do like that pickup for them. I mean, I think they're like 5th in scoring in the league or something like that.
I will
I don't know
find that.
how that's changed after tonight. I wouldn't assume it's by much, but anytime you're that high in the league in scoring,
Technical difficulty has been fixed, hopefully for good. You were continuing to talk about Patrick Kane as I check and see where the Red Wings are in total goals.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I don't know how much it moves the needle for them necessarily. Just as a team overall, it's well known he doesn't bring really anything to the table defensively. Um, but him back with DeBrincat, I think is huge. He's going to be just on strictly top line minutes. That top line of DeBrincat, Larkin, and Kane is scary. Especially like I said, even if they're not fifth, I believe they're pretty high in the
They
league in
are
scoring.
exactly
So
fifth.
fifth, yeah. So that definitely helps them out quite a bit. They're not far off. I don't know too much about their cap situation and everything. But I think if they could get a couple more pieces at the deadline, I do like that team a lot.
I don't know if
Um,
I don't know if they're
yeah, go
looking for a
ahead.
goaltender, but DeBrincat and Kane straight up for Jonathan Quick is going to hit pretty darn well. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, and they can keep all of the money both ways, so that would be
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, I was honestly a little scared about this game just because I am high on the Red Wings, and especially during it. I mean, it was 2-1 Detroit for a while. I was still confident the Rangers could tie it just because, like I said, they were getting a million chances, but going into this game, I was a little scared, especially coming off a loss. But obviously, two late goals from the Rangers to win it. So, like I said, the only time apart from the penalties and the 20 or 30 seconds that they gave up two goals, I thought they were really really good tonight. So
I was the Jimmy VC goal one of the best goals of the season for the Rangers. Could it be just from a sheer focus standpoint the goal of the season for the Rangers? Like that was
yeah,
just
it's super weird with Jimmy VZ because it's either like he he either is completely unnoticeable or he just decides to like take over a game. It's with him. That was I did not expect. First of all, I didn't expect that goal to count just because we have not had the best luck on goal reviews this year. But obviously, it was huge. He just keeps doing it. I think it's only like his fifth goal on the year or something like that. But he has played ridiculously well so far. And Keandre Miller I mean, that was a sick goal, especially the pass from Mika. That was beautiful.
Miller's starting to cook real recently. He started the season pretty good. Went cold for a little bit. Past few games, he started to look really good again. The Boston game had just that killer missile. Tonight he gets this big one. I've been high on Keandre Miller basically since he debuted here, but by God, beautiful one from him. The top line has started to look like the top line again. Slowly, it hasn't just totally clicked back on, but it's coming alive. The grinding line near the bottom, like the VC, Pitlick, and Gaudreau with them.
Goodrow.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
They've started to look really good recently, which is not what I was expecting, but by God.
Especially because they've been scoring pretty well too, and
Yeah.
I mean I think the other thing too is I mean in the Boston game there was a shift that line had that lasted like 80 seconds in Boston zone. So it's one thing to talk about a fourth line being good and all they're doing is just like chipping pucks in and hitting. That's I mean they're doing that, but they are actually sustaining like offensive pressure. So I did not expect anything like that. I Pitlick could have had another one tonight. I think he missed the net on at least one. But yeah, they've been impressive. I think this team top to bottom right now is definitely looking really solid. Obviously, if it would be nice to be fully healthy, but I mean, they've lost 5 games so far without a lot of key pieces. Heedle should be back somewhat soon, based on what they're saying. I'd give it probably another month. At least he is skating on his own, and he's actually actively working his way back. I think if we were at this point, and he still hasn't, stepped foot on the ice, I would be very worried. But obviously, he's skating and working his way back. I think, this game, like I said, I was scared, but I was never fully worried at any point. I guess until Detroit had a power play in the last 2 minutes. That was not fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, this team, like I said, I have very, very few complaints. And obviously, they talked about Patrick Kane pretty much every other minute on the broadcast tonight.
Did you know he
I,
was
I
on the
guess
Rangers last year, Evan?
I did. I remember that quite well. I don't think it ended well, but I remember him putting on the jersey.
No, they won the cup.
Yeah, they TNT literally talked about it just about every opportunity they got, which I understand. I mean, they did the same thing for us, but it is a bit of a scripted league, if you ask me. Like, what are the chances of him signing? Obviously, he didn't play, but I mean, he signed literally the day of or the day before we play them. So, like that is scripted in itself. I wanted to bring that up one more time just to obviously say it is over. So, he's not going to be a Ranger. So we can finally, stop talking about that.
You can stop
And
with your delusions, Twitter. We're not getting Patrick Kane. We're gonna trade for McDavid at the deadline.
the reason I'm mentioning that is because obviously I think it's 2.75 mil that he got or somewhere around there. I know it's above 2 million.
It was 275.
We obviously cannot afford that right now. And even if we could, like, let's say we did use, if we found a way to offer him like a million or something and sign him, I would rather not do that. Basically because I mean it goes without saying we don't need it. I mean they're 16-4-1. They're very, very good. But also the trade deadline is very, very far from now, and you never know what's going to happen. So we've already had some injuries so far. Let's say somebody goes down or something like that and misses some time. Let's say you need to trade for another defenseman or something like that, and you no longer can do that because you just spent every last penny you have on Patrick Kane. That would be a nightmare. So I'd rather not have to deal with that. I'd rather see if there are any issues that need to be fixed rather than just making a move just to make one and then having it, bite us later. So
Horribly
it is what it is. Yeah, it's behind us now. I'm a little worried because, like I said, we've had some injuries so far, and it's just a matter of if we were to do that, then we have no room to do anything. So,
at this moment in time, it looks like the Rangers are. I see total cap allocation at about 24,000 over the cap. So like you have negative money. I need you to understand this.
That's the other thing too. I mean, obviously that's not great, but the other thing too is, I mean, like nowadays, we saw it last year. They were making all kinds of transactions. There is a way to give give yourself a little bit of wiggle room with the cap. I'm just not willing to do it for a guy that clearly didn't work last year. Like I said, I say that, but if he were to have signed with the team, I would be pumped just because like I said, he's one of my favorite players ever. But I'm also, glad that it didn't happen and we could finally just stop talking about it because, I mean, for the whole season, this team has been winning damn near every game they play, and the morning after a win, the entire fan base is just arguing over who we should trade for. So that was about the last guy that we could possibly maybe get right now, and it's just behind us. So we could finally just focus on the team at hand. And honestly, I'm fine with Johnny Brodzinski just being, on the fourth line or the third line. Yeah. He's a perfectly fine player. So it's not worth potentially ruining the chemistry again with Patrick Kane because it didn't work. So
yeah, especially right now where you're playing such a solid defensive game. Like, I'm not going to say that Panarin has looked good defensively, but he's not getting embarrassed like he was last year. The team as a whole just looks defensively better, and I like Patrick Kane. That was a fun little moment when they finally got the trade done. He had some fun moments. He had the big playoff game where I think he had 2 goals. And
I think he had the 1 goal and like 3 assists or something, but obviously it doesn't even matter now. I've tried to
we lost the
completely
series,
wipe that.
Really at the end of the
tried
day,
to wipe
so
the series
really
from my memory. So
it was fun, and I would have, the fan in me and the fan of Patrick Kane would have that part of my brain would have turned off and just been like, oh yay, he's back, cool. but I am fine. We finally can watch a team that for 60 minutes is actually going to play defense in front of a goaltender. And that's a really novel concept that I kind of appreciate. So I'm not going to just sit here and ask why they didn't bring him back, because there is a reason outside of just the money. And
yeah.
they also, elephant in the room, I don't know if you're aware of this, they're the best team in the NHL by points, and they are passing the eye test. Like, they look like one of the best teams in the NHL. This isn't some weird thing where, like, oh yeah, the Flyers are a playoff team. Well, are they? No. They are playing like the best team in the NHL. They have the numbers, at least in points, that they are the best team. And you still... Mika hasn't fully clicked on. He's really started to look good, but he still hasn't gotten it totally at 5-on-5 yet. Kreider's starting to feel himself. Well, that's a weird sentence to say, by the way, that Kreider is starting to feel himself as he sits with, like, 13 goals on the year. We're like, he's finally starting to heat up.
Yeah. He's made a lot of really good plays recently.
The defense, they still have so much more to go up. I still think Keandre Miller is going to get better as the season progresses. Fox is finally back. The third pair now, you have Gustafsson there with Schneider, and I'm just very intrigued to see how that continues to go. You're going to get Hedl back. Shesterkin tonight really played a great game. He looked really solid. Especially the final, I think it was the final save of his night, where it just bounced and juggled around him and a defender and a Red Wing right in front of the net, and he just muscled it over to the corner.
Yeah. He was definitely really locked in. Obviously, the only 2 goals that were given up were a deflection, and the second one, the Rangers were puck watching, and somebody screened Igor, and it just got through him. There was no way he was going to save that outside of just pure luck. So he made a lot of outstanding saves in this game. And yeah, like you said, I've definitely been pretty impressed by the defense, especially now. I think Gustafsson and Schneider have been really, really, really good together. Obviously, we have them back full time now. I am 100% comfortable. I mean, they've played well enough to the point where, like, even if we did have money, at the deadline, I wouldn't really want to trade for a defenseman. Like, that's one of the... This is the first time in a very long time that I've felt like that, because, Jesus, for the past pretty much long as I can remember, there was always a 6th defenseman on the Rangers that was just detrimental to the team. So, as of right now, like... Yeah, as of right now, I'm not even, like, willing to break any of this up. So it's definitely fun to watch. And the one thing I want to mention too, Keandre Miller has been outstanding so far this season, and I'm very happy with it, because I mean, even last year, it was one of the the first couple podcasts we did. Keandre Miller was not playing well for the second half of last season whatsoever. So nobody was really happy with him then. Just about every night, this season, he's been outstanding on both ends of the ice. So I'm thrilled to see what he keeps doing. But other than that, I mean, yeah, we've pretty much covered everything with the team. Like, there's very few complaints. I think we have Nashville next in Nashville. So we'll see.
Yeah, funny thing about that, Evan. You notice how today is Wednesday, and tomorrow is Thursday, and then you have Friday, right?
I do notice that, yeah.
Yeah, so they play Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I'm not surprised.
And don't worry.
It seems like every time we complain about the schedule, nothing they do shocks me anymore.
And
so
don't worry, it is a back-to-back with travel. I know.
Oh, awesome! Concerned. Yeah.
You play in Nashville.
That's perfect.
And
so
then you come home for a Sunday game against San Jose.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. So you're telling me, like, neither one of those games could have been in the week that we just randomly had off? Or, I don't know. Whatever. It's fine.
Can I be honest and say that I'm kind of terrified about that San Jose game?
Yeah, that's a Ranger. That's a trap game right there. Like, it's that. Honestly, the Buffalo game is a trap game. That is the biggest trap game I've ever seen. Please don't lose it, but I'm expecting to. So.
Please bury them with probably Jonathan Quick in net.
Yeah, just
Oh,
please win.
I
Um, yeah, I'm definitely very impressed by the team so far. You would like to win the next two for sure. I mean, they've set themselves up in a really, really good position in the Metro because none of the other teams have really picked it up yet. So, I mean,
you
it would take one of these teams to go on a ridiculous win streak while the Rangers go on a ridiculous losing streak
mhm.
to overtake them at this point. I mean, it's a big lead right now. So that's big. I would just like them not to win the President's Trophy,
Yeah,
if
please don't
possible.
do that. Vegas can have
Um,
it.
yeah, let them have it, please. I'm confident Vegas will do it just because the West is not that great. I mean, if the Rangers played in the West, they would probably break the point record of all time. So,
Can you
yeah, I
imagine
think Vegas.
facing? I mean, I don't know about San. Can you imagine facing San Jose for like 5 games? Just free.
Yeah, I mean it's like Colorado when they won the cup. It's like what did they have like 120 points or something like that? Like they just it was bad. Like they had free wins all the time. I will say just in terms of the Nashville game, we've seen it a couple times. This has been something that's been on my mind. The Rangers haven't blown leads like crazy. They haven't blown games like crazy. That's obvious by their record.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% comfortable with how they play with the lead yet.
Hmm.
And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because there's been a few games this year where the Preds have tied it late. Like they score 2, 3 goals very late in the game and win it. So you're playing a team that's shown they can capitalize on that. Now, this is obviously assuming the Rangers are, have a lead in the third period. Who knows what's going to happen in the game? But like I said, in the event that they do, you're playing a team that is very, very good at coming back late in the game. So I'm just a little worried about that. But the Preds haven't been that great this year. So obviously, you got pretty much dismantled by them
Yeah.
real early on. But that's way behind us now.
Is
So
that game 4?
I would definitely like to win this one. So.
Yeah. I think you pretty much hit it. I'm excited, hopefully, to see the goalie matchup. I assume it's going to be Saros and Shesterkin, which
Yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah. I mean, that goalie nerds rejoice. You're going to get 2 of the top 5 going head to head, so hopefully that'll be fun to watch. Cannot wait to watch the Ryan O'Reilly hat trick in that game. But other than that, I feel pretty solid with everything. Big weekend, not necessarily because of the big opponents, but because if you lose to either one of them, we are going to get memed into the dirt, and I would prefer you not to do that.
Yeah.
So until they're back, I feel pretty happy with everything that's been said. And yeah, thank you all so very much for watching the 19th episode of the Rangers Gameplan podcast. Hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day, and as always, go Rangers.
Yep, go Rangers.